while Dave gets the slides, myself. My name is Jeff Williams. I'm the volunteer chair of OWASP. I also work at People Aspect Security. And I've spent about the last 10 years or so looking at the source code for some of the most critical applications in the world. And it never ceases to surprise me just how stunningly insecure some of these applications are. I think we need a real reality check here, is that we are not doing a good enough job building secure code. Not by a long shot. And it's the people in this room that know this problem best. I think we've got an amazing collection of people here today that really understand this problem. So I'm going to challenge you to become a missionary for application security, right? You all understand this problem. And lots of people out there don't get it. They don't understand how serious this problem is. I really believe this is one of the major challenges that's confronting us, that's preventing us from advancing and from doing new and great things with technologies like the internet. So I want to look at our record a little bit here. So we've known about buffer overflows for 30 years, give or take. Well understood problem, but still a tremendous issue in software that's being built. Really, the only reason we're making progress against buffer overflows is that we're not using languages that are susceptible to them as much anymore, right? We're using Java.NET instead of C and C++. That's not a success story. If you look at problems like SQL injection and cross-site scripting, we've known about these, understood them for 10 years. I mean, the people in this room have, to a large extent, known about these things for a decade. And yet, cross-site scripting just became sort of the #1 flaw out there, right? According to the minor data. It's massively prevalent and getting worse. If you look at Ajax applications and so on, it's getting much more dangerous, much worse. So we need a way to get in front of this problem. And I think OWASP is one of the potential solutions to this problem. I mean, it's a huge issue. It's a massive problem that is very important. And I think by working together at OWASP, we can make a difference. But it's going to take some work. We've got to evangelize. We've got to get out. We've got to touch all the developers out there that haven't gotten the message yet. So if you notice, and I'm sure Dennis is going to mention this, but I'm going to just sort of thunder a little bit. On this book, it says at the bottom, it says, this is a viral book. Please make copies or share it. The latest version of this book is on the wiki. It's always up to date. Don't take this book home and flip through it and put it on your shelf. Give this book to somebody that needs it and infect them with software security. Because that's the way we get our message out there. There's a lot of great stuff in this book, and developers, when you present it to them, are very receptive to this. They want to do the right thing, but they don't know how. So we're trying to make it available for them out there to do these kinds of things. This one? Great. So I wanted to talk about a few reasons why I think people ought to do application security. And I was thrilled to hear the eBay guys this morning touch on all of these points, really. The first point is that you do application security because you want to cut your risk, right? This is the obvious reason for doing application security. And the eBay folks mentioned that the attackers are getting organized. This is organized crime, they have financial motives, and they are going after our software. So the threat has changed. So you do application security to help cut that risk. That's easy for a business to understand, but it might not be enough. If they're not seeing the attacks, they're not really getting it yet, it's difficult to get things funded. So there's a second reason why you ought to do application security. And the eBay talks this morning, they talked about trust. Trust is really a competitive advantage. You build your application in a trustworthy way so that you have an advantage over your competitors. You can say, hey, ours is the trustworthy version. Come do business with us. And I really want to get companies to start advertising the fact that their applications are secure. It is a competitive advantage. But there's a last reason for doing application security that is really why I'm interested in doing this. And somewhere in the beginning of my career, a guy named Joel Sachs told me that security is not about restricting things. Security is an enabler. Security allows you to do things that you can't do without security. So Ken Van Wyck, a friend of mine in Alexandria, he's written some books on software security, great guy. He described it this way. He says, you have brakes in your car to allow you to go fast. It's not a restriction on what you can do. We need software security so that we can build applications that do things that we can't do today because we don't have that security. I want to innovate. I want people to build new systems that nobody's ever thought of before. I want to be able to go on the internet and have my doctor do a medical procedure over the web. I want to put my financial information out there and let some website invest my money for me. I want to do these things, but I can't today because we don't have security. And we're never going to make much progress if we don't get past stupid problems like cross-site scripting and SQL injection and simple access control problems. So I really want companies to see security as an enabler, as allowing them to innovate, and that may get executives to invest in application security. They can see, hey, wow, this is going to let me innovate and do new things that will build new markets. All right, so I have very little amount of time here to give an overview of OWASP. One of the key things that we're trying to achieve in OWASP is this changing the software market to a place where people can trust the software that they're using. I think one of the points that the eBay speaker made this morning was about transparency and making security visible. And I really think this is the path towards changing the software market. If we can make software security visible, so that people can look at one website or product or piece of software, they can compare and decide to choose the one that has the security in it. I want visibility into not just the software itself, like are there vulnerabilities there, or are there security mechanisms in there? I also want visibility into how that software was built. Who built it? Were they trained in security? Do they know what they're doing? So people stuff. I want information about the process that was used to build the software. Did they test it? Did they have requirements? Did they do an architecture review? These kinds of things. Did they do threat modeling? So I want insight into the process as well, and I also want insight into the technology that was used to build the product. Do they use CM? Do they have scanning tools? Do they have static analysis tools? What's the framework that allows these developers to build secure software? And I'm going to talk tomorrow about what a new OWASP project that I'm leading called the Enterprise Security API. Does this organization that's building the software have an enterprise security API? Or is every project that they build sort of reinventing security from scratch? All right, so I have to give a sort of a whirlwind overview of all the things that are in OWASP. I'm going to try to do that in these next few slides. So you see the wiki. I wanted to try to tell you about OWASP by describing a story. I want to tell a story of an incident. So a friend of mine called Joe is the Chief Information Security Officer at a financial organization, and one morning the CEO comes running in and says, our competitor just got hacked. Some kind of web application problem. I got to make sure that we're not susceptible. Go check it out. And he says, well, boss, I think we're okay. He said, well, how do you know? I don't know, boss, it's not something we really track. So he said, well, get on it. The board wants to know about this right away. So my friend Joe goes off, and he said, well, I'll go find out what do I got to look at. So the first step in his thinking is this sort of triage stage. He's got to go find out, where are we? What's our situation? He goes off and talks to some of the developer groups, and they say, well, yeah, we're secure. Oh, that's great. I really appreciate that. Let me just make sure. But, can you show me some of the security requirements that we're building to? Don't have any. How about the test results? Can you show me some test results? We don't really have security test results per se. So then he says, okay, well, show me, I know we get these penetration tests. Let me see the results from those. And he looks at them, and they're actually just sort of network penetration testing, right? Operating systems are hardened, but nobody's actually really looked at the code. So now Joe's getting a little bit worried. He can go off and he can look at, he went off and looked around the internet, he found that OWASP top 10, and he says, okay, let me try and get organized about the problem. So I'll use the OWASP Top 10 as sort of a framework for measuring how, our status on application security. You can also look at the OWASP Honeycomb project. This is actually a huge database of information about the threats, attacks, vulnerabilities, countermeasures, and business impacts related to application security. Instead of trying to build some strict taxonomy, the OWASP approach is we've used the wiki taxonomy approach. We've got a huge web of information about all of these different things. So he does some research out there. He looks at the OWASP Tools project because he thinks, wow, maybe I can just run some tools and kind of get a good feeling for whether I'm secure enough. And in looking at the Tools project, he realizes that tools are probably an important part of my AppSec program, but they're not really going to cover everything that I need to look at. So after Joe does a little triage, then he says, okay, we've got an issue here. We're not doing enough on application security. So he goes into what I'll call analysis phase. And he decides to take a step back and really dig in and gather some actual facts. He knows that before he can go to the executives to get support for application security, he's going to have some facts. So he backs up and he starts looking at some of the analysis tools that OWASP has. WebScare, and Cal 1000, and Durbuster, which is a fuzzer. You got Labs, which is a code, a static analysis environment. There's some other tools here. Pantera is a tester kind of program. There's SprayJax for AJAX testing. Database testing tool, SQLIX. There's another fuzzer for web services. Another fuzzer for just a sort of web fuzzer. And there's OWASP Interceptor project, which is kind of a really interesting testing tool. And we've got a lot of tools out there that Joe can use. He decides he's going to do a sort of a survey. He gets the top, most critical applications from each of his divisions and starts to gather some real facts. And after he runs some of these tools, his guys start to find some real serious vulnerabilities. And he comes back, he put together a survey, and he says, okay, we've looked at these, we've got some critical problems, and for the most part, they fall into the top 10 categories. So then Joe goes into a sort of getting healthy phase. He goes to the CEO with his data and gets some support. He says, CEO, we got to do something here. We've got to put a program in place. And so he puts together a getting healthy program. And he uses a lot of OWASP resources here as well. He goes for the testing guide, and there's a companion document to this now that's just brand new. And he starts putting that in place and pushing out some guidelines to his developers. He uses the risk rating scheme in the testing guide to establish a standard for his organization so that they can stop arguing about whether something is a low or a medium or a critical. He grabs the OWASP live CD and puts together a lab where he can have a team that focuses on doing application security testing. For one of the critical ingredients that the eBay folks mentioned this morning. He's using the resources in the OWASP education project. This is actually a sort of a new project, but essentially Sebastian's going out and pulling together all these presentations that we've got over the last 4 or 5 years of OWASP and organizing them into sort of a curriculum that people can use to learn about application security. And he's categorizing them, tagging them, organizing them, pulling together. It's sort of the rip, mix, burn version of application security knowledge. So he's put together a nice database here. He decides to use the OWASP report generator to communicate information about application security around his organization. So he captures findings in here and shares them with his team, teaches them how to fix these problems. And he's using WebGo internally for teaching developers how to avoid these problems. So after about 6 months, he sees this program is working. He's established an organizational risk register where he's now tracking risks across the organization in all of his applications, and he's starting to see some trends. He's starting to be able to see trends like wow, most of our mistakes have to do with input validation. Maybe we should invest in building a standard input validation library that all of the applications can use and push out solutions across applications. So he's starting to manage his portfolio. He's put in place some standards using guides like the Guide to Building Secure Applications. There's some libraries. OWASP has a number of little libraries. The encoding project is one, Sting is another. There's a few other libraries of protection mechanisms. And the talk I'm giving later on the Enterprise Security API really sort of pulls all those together, kind of a best of AppSec mechanism. So that'll be released today. I mentioned Stinger, sort of input validation filter. He also decides to do some improvements to the software development lifecycle, and he looks at CLASP. CLASP is, it's a quiet project at OWASP, but it's really quite powerful. There's a number of different lifecycle phases that are defined that'll help you integrate application security into your software development process. He gets his team reading about AppSec and tracking. We've put a moderated newsfeed. I don't know how many of you, you read the blogs. There's an awful lot of noise per signal in the application security blog space. So we've got a moderated blog that just pulls in sort of non-commercial, innovative, and informative posts without all the noise. I don't know, it's maybe 3 or 4 posts a day. He's got people going to OWASP conferences, and he's participating in the OWASP chapter meetings. And he's even got some of his folks looking at doing some projects, contributing back to the OWASP community. They may have some things that they've done right, like establishing some policies or requirements documents or processes that they want to contribute back to OWASP. And you can get grant money from OWASP for working on those kinds of projects. We've given away quite a lot of money over the last couple of years. So that's sort of a whirlwind tour of how one organization might use the things that are available at OWASP. And there's other things available as well. Dennis is going to do a sort of a comprehensive review of all the tools and all the documents at OWASP and go in a little more detail than I'm able to here. But what I want you to see is that OWASP is more than just a collection of random projects. You can assemble all these things. And, I get that OWASP isn't perfect, right? It's an open source thing. People are contributing their time in a volunteer way. And so, not everything is spelled perfectly. But we're working on building this platform that people can use. And I really encourage you to join. I think if you take a step back and look at what's going on in application security, you'll see that to a very real extent, your security depends on the security of everybody else in the room. And if you go listen to PDP Architect talk later on about Web 2.0 security, you're going to see that we're really all interlinked with each other in a lot of very serious ways. Your browser talks to hundreds of web apps, most of them insecure. If your browser gets compromised, those websites get compromised. Those websites are talking to, if you're eBay, millions of people. We're all interconnected quite closely in the Web 2.0 world especially. And so I think it makes a lot of sense for us to work together and share resources. We can all get better by sharing through an organization like OWASP. So please join us. I encourage you to contribute things that you have or use our stuff, give us feedback. I love to hear about the feedback, but we don't get enough. So thanks everyone. Have a great conference. I'll take a few minutes to take some questions. Good.
How was the 3-point shot?
It's all right. You want to run?
All right, so I just want to mention the logistics of the tracks, if there's no other questions, right? So this room will be track A. There's the fireside rooms across the building are track B. And the room right next door will be track C, which is the web services track, which is just today. And then the panel at the end of today will be back in this room, so we'll all be back here at 4:30.